Greetings, ladies and emergents, and welcome to this latest edition of Re-TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called The Beautiful Machine, written by Rydner Skuldeer. Johnny's heart was hammering in his ribs, trying to pump even more blood and hormones to his extremities. There was nothing left for him to do. The air circulator was buzzing to his left. The nav panel silently clicked down another second. There was a breeze against his face. What was left to do? What could he still do? He surveyed the panel with his eyes, unable to turn his head. Antenna, decoder, encoder, channel select, bore, rotation, axle, shaft, sluice, conveyor, support arms, O2 reserve, scrubbers, N2 reserve, pressure sensors, power plant batteries, transformer left, transformer right, graviton beacon lock, all green. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3. Pilot, Capcom. Capcom, pilot, he responded. Immediate, instinctive, Pavlovian. We're green for ball start. Copy, ball start. Johnny moved his finger to the actual, honest-to-God mechanical switch. It clicked like something out of the original Star Trek. A throbbing bass underscored the tiny buzz of the fan. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. A small indicator on the nav panel switched from green to white. Johnny saw the front of the subspace ball revving up in his mind. A faint vibration carried back to the cabin as the ball head crept past 15 RPM. This particular arrangement of reality spikes on the ball head caused each subspace ball to vibrate at a unique series of exponential harmonics. The engineers had built dampeners and counter-harmonic systems to prevent the vibration. Johnny, like all pilots before him and all pilots after him, could still feel the machine vibrate. The RPM held steady at 100. Pilot, Capcom, confirm reading beacon G-lock. Capcom, pilot, G-lock reading green. Johnny waited. His hand gripped the polished chrome lever. He was careful not to nudge it. In 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pilot, Capcom, go for tunnel. I repeat, go for tunnel. Capcom pilot, Roger, go for tunnel. His hand gently guided the lever forward, stopping at a soft click when it reached the first position. The subspace ball growled. Johnny felt the bass rumble descend below his hearing threshold and settle into his chest. RPMs leapt up to 1,000. Vents along the side of the subspace ball opened, glowing a dull red. Then an orange-yellow, yellow, warm white, cool white, until finally a terrifying bright blue as the dump vents clanked open. Comms fuzzed out as the ball head started to test space-time. Johnny pressed the gear ratio 1 button. The massive treads on the bottom of the ball engaged, siphoning off a fraction of the RPM. His nav panel cautioned him. Radar detected a solid obstacle, the cliff wall of a former quarry, 50 meters ahead of the subspace ball. Johnny pushed the lever to the second position. The ball's thunderous voice vibrated his bones, but he couldn't hear it. It was 90% subsonic. As the RPMs built, climbing past 1,500, the detrabilizer started its characteristic monotone scream. At precisely 1,572 RPMs, the entire cab shuddered violently. Johnny let go of the lever, afraid he might push it accidentally. The shuddering faded as abruptly as it came. Johnny checked his teeth with his tongue. Nothing chipped. Radar reported 40 meters to the cliff wall. The space-time sluice and conveyor systems warbled to life somewhere far behind the cab. The RPM slipped below 1,500, shaking the cab violently again. Johnny was holding his breath, white-knuckling the command seat's armrests. The RPM gauge slowed down, correcting for a new load, hovered at 1,479, and then started climbing back up. He grit his teeth before thinking better of it, instead made a conscious effort to keep his jaw loose. As the RPM gauge passed 1,572 again, the light shuddered in his vision. He could swear that a bit of dust or something fell from one of the panels above him. Were the cab lights flickering? Oh God, please don't let the damn thing have shaken its wiring loose. His St. Christopher medallion fell off the annunciator panel. "Fucking engineers and their crappy calculations," he shouted, grabbing the St. Christopher medallion mid-air. His elbow crashed into the armrest as the entire machine jostled upwards in less than a second. Finally, the beast calmed down and the RPMs climbed past the harmonic. Radar reported 25 meters to the cliff wall. Johnny flung the lever to the third position. The hairs on his neck relaxed as the subspace ball purred subsonically. Save for the tiny whine of the air circulator, the cab was silent. Even the jet tranquilizer was screaming in supersonic now. He gently rehung the medallion next to the master caution light. Radar beeped. 10 minutes. The terrain light blazed a bright orange. RPMs plateaued at 2,114. External cameras flashed a confused static rainbow of fractal moire patterns. The quarry wall seemed to be reflecting in 1,000 shards of glass, rotating on an axis that was neither roll, pitch, nor yaw. Brilliant streaks of color raced between the shards. Strange scintillations burned at the camera, looking like how it felt when his foot was asleep. The terrain light winked off. Radar reported no return. All around was the ever-changing chaos of subspace. Johnny's subspace ball and its dragged along tunnel of real space were the only human things in every direction except behind him. Rear-facing cameras showed the rock and dirt from the quarry. The subspace ball was an idea dragged into reality and tempered by a million compromises. It was designed. It was human-made. Before the rear of the subspace ball transitioned, when the comms would tick over, the subspace adjusted. Johnny followed the tradition of raw ball pilots and repeated Angela Leonard's first words from another universe. The real first words, not the ones she said later for the microphones and the recorders. "Thank you, Lightspeed. We'll just go to a different universe." End of story. Story number 2. Terrifying Humans, written by Arc-like Mages. "Humans are terrifying," they had all said. "Keep away from them and deal with them only as you must." Being a younger hatchling of my species, I obeyed. It seemed sage advice. But there seems to come a time in all species growth where rebellion is most valued, to be unburdened by the wisdom of elders. And so to the spaceport I went to watch these terrifying humans. And they were so disappointing. Certainly they were larger than my species, so were a bit more capable, but it wasn't as though they could fly like us. Half listening to a history lesson, I heard the name of humans come up again. The teacher spoke of the Trigon Armada, until some 20 solar cycles ago, something akin to a myth that even the elders had dismissed. But it was real. The myth spoke of a collective of space vessels, grazing around the stars, consuming whole planets without regard for any life that happened to be there. Whole star systems left bare, and occasionally an entire star being swallowed up by the Armada. We all thought it a good joke to chuckle about, a fanciful end-of-the-world story told to frighten egglings and the very gullible. But it came. The vast fleet of space vessels seemed less than real at first. But the closer they had come, the more real the threat had become. We tried all manner of communications and got only one answer back. We do not care. We will take what we need. There would be no trade, no peaceable exchange. They, whatever they were, would simply take anything and everything they wanted without regard for us. The Galactic Council began deliberations to decide if they should help or not, and so we, my species, gave up hope and resigned to simply building as many ships as possible and sending as many of our people into the stars as possible, that we might not all die. This did not last, though, as the Armada claimed even the ships and everything on them. We don't know what became of the people on those ships, but we know they were never returned to us. But then, the humans came. Now history recalls that we were buoyed with hope upon seeing the first human vessels arrive. But then, when they communicated to us that they were all the reinforcements the Empire could spare at the moment, we were crushed. But it did not last long. The battle of humanity and the Trigon Armada over our world and our system is still spoken of in hushed tones. Some of the elders who witnessed it speak of the great fires burning, of fierce nights, brighter than any star, and even the few space station battles which occurred. The human marines, stronger and more powerful than even their baseline, tore through our space stations, destroying every being bearing the mark of Trigon Armada. And though we were not a peaceful race, our elders shudder, even thinking back on the horrors they saw wrought by the humans. 10,000 vessels of the Trigon Armada versus the 15 the humans could spare. It wasn't even a fair fight, not even in our own history books. The shells of 10,003 vessels littered our system, and to this day are still being salvaged, save for the 3. With the loss of 3 vessels and the associated lives, the humans had defeated these system and species enders. To even begin to calculate the odds of our species' survival, our greatest mathematician would have said 0, but the humans came anyway. It seemed peak-wrenching to even think about humans after that lesson, that we owed them that much and that they were capable of such impossible violence. After I finished my schooling, I decided I wanted to experience humans, the real kind, not just the ones written about in history books. And so I went down to the spaceport again and found a park with some human younglings and their human minders. The younglings were about my full size, but almost certainly outmassed me by 3 times over, at least. It seemed my kind was not a normal sight here, because they gestured for me to land near them excitedly. Cautiously, or perhaps incautiously now that I look back on it, I landed next to them. The tallest one made an ah sound that I couldn't quite translate, and then reached out and patted my head, slightly ruffling my feathers in the process. It was a strange interaction, and had it not felt so good, I would have been indignant and offended. I even accidentally extended my head and neck up and out to get more of the human patterns. After one of their minders called them away from me, it was only then that I realized how much danger I'd been in, and at the same time to the degree which I'd exposed myself. But it had felt so good, and I wanted more. It wasn't until some solar cycles and many snatched and somewhat secretive patterns that I learned that this was a common human pack-bonding action, and I was certainly not the first. Many of the human homeworld creatures were known to pack-bond with various humans and get patterns. I even learned that I wasn't all that dissimilar to the human homeworld creature known as a parrot, although from the pictures I've seen, I'm a lot bigger than those creatures are. But while humans may be terrifying, there is always time for patterns. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.